YouTube. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be going over X factors in the NBA playoff games as well as the NBA playoffs first round. We're just going to be going over pretty much some of the basic first round matchups, but that's going to be kind of secondary. I first want to talk about these playoff play-in games because of how important they are. Of course, ESPN is not going to be working as I try and record the video. That's just my luck. But the two games that are on tonight, as you can see on the screen, are the Hornets and Pacers, as well as the Wizards and Celtics. Now, I'm not going to try and go over players that are like starters on the team or somebody who's like, let's say for the Hornets, for example, I'm not going to say Terry Rozier, as they are relying on him. Pretty much they've relied on him every game this season. But for the Hornets, a player that I think is a player that could be an X factor, in my opinion, is somebody like PJ Washington. Now, we are going to be going over the Hornets' stats, and as most of you guys know, if you're basketball fans, the Hornets have the Rookie of the Year, potentially. It's pretty much a lock between him and Anthony Edwards in LaMelo Ball, but throughout this season, they've been relying on Terry Rozier for a lot of their scoring. As you can see, he is the leading scorer on the team, followed by Gordon Hayward and then LaMelo Ball. But players that I think are X factors on this team are number one, PJ Washington. We saw it earlier in the season when I think he had close to 40 points. I think he had in the 30s. I think he had close to 40. He is a guy that is playing a lot of defense. I think he's kind of known for his defense in a sense. As you can see, he is averaging over a block and a steal per game. He is leading the team in blocks per game, and he's right up there in steals per game, which just shows his defensive prowess and how good of a defender he is. But he has been known for his offense. He has developed his three-point shot as his careers went on. This is in his second season. I think he shot much better this year. I have this up here just so we can check how players have improved throughout their rookie to second year season or so on. But he is pretty consistent, right around 37%. Here he's shooting 38.6% this year. So he is improving a tiny bit, but it's really negligible. But what he is doing is playing defense. As you can see, his steals went up 0.2 steals per game. His blocks went up 0.4 blocks per game. He is getting more offensive rebounds as well as defensive rebounds, which is what you like to see. But for him, he's a guy that I think is a player that could just go out on any given night. If he just has a big night in this play-in game, can get that 25 points, pretty much double his season average. I think that puts the Hornets in a great position to win. Another player that I wouldn't be surprised to see help them and score a boatload of points is Devante Graham. Unfortunately, he has had a really disappointing season so far. He was playing so well last year that he was one of my guys that I thought would take a really big step up this year, but I think being pushed down the depth chart with the addition of LaMelo Ball hurt his confidence because he struggled throughout the season. As you can see, he's shooting 37% from the field this year, which is worse than he shot last year, and everyone thought that would improve. I don't know if it's just him shooting too much, or I think it's a combination of him shooting too many three-pointers per game. Although his percentage is 37%, I think a player like him, if he can get a few shots going up close from two, mid-ranges maybe, I think that could help his confidence go up, and I think he's a player that could also be somebody who is a very surprising player as well as an X factor on the offensive end for the Hornets. Now, we are going to be going over both teams, and the Hornets are playing the Indiana Pacers, I'm pretty sure. Yes, they are. And the Pacers are a really difficult team to judge. They are playing without Caris LeVert because he's in health and safety protocols. So they're going to have to looking for Sabonis for more of their scoring, for more help on the offensive and defensive end. But a player that I think is going to be an X factor in this game, and I think potentially the biggest X factor with Caris LeVert being out, is Oshae Bracette. Now, many people, even regular fans, might not know who Oshae Bracette is, but he is technically, I think, a rookie. I'm not 100% sure if he is a true rookie or if this is his first time playing, but he is getting his first minutes, pretty much consistent minutes of his career this season, and in my opinion, he's playing pretty well. As you can see here, he is a 22-year-old power forward-ish. He's from Syracuse, and I really liked him coming out of Syracuse. Yeah, you can see he is a rookie here, and in his limited minutes, I know his minutes are going up because of how well he's playing, but if you look at it, he's averaging roughly 24 minutes per game, and he's putting up 11 and 5.5, which I think is really good from an undersized power forward. I think he is a guy that has been playing really well lately. As you can see, his last game starting, he had 31 points and 10 rebounds. He is a guy that nobody is talking about, and he is a guy that could be a difference maker on this Pacers team. They are really big heavy. They've got Sabonis, they've got TJ Warren, but Bracette is a guy that can provide that different, like, change of pace kind of guy. As you see in football, you see a first and second down back, but then you see a receiving back. Bracette is a guy that's going to get out there. He's going to get those hustle points because he's a rookie, because that's just how he plays. He's going to be okay to grab those rebounds, but he's also going to be able to shoot the three ball when he needs to on limited shots. He's going to get down low, and he's going to score his points and allow TJ Warren and Sabonis to be on the outside on the perimeter and making those bigger shots. He is a guy that I think is going to be the biggest potential difference maker. I'm going to go out and say of any play-in game, I think Oshae Brissett is going to be the guy that can provide the most for his team in his minutes. That's not a guy that's going to play 40 minutes a night in the playoffs or 40 minutes in this play-in game. So that's my pretty bold prediction for this game. Now for the Wizards-Celtics game, I know people are not going to like this, but I'm just going to say it's so hard. I don't know if there's really anyone on the Wizards that is that, like, guy that can provide a little spark off the bench. I do remember, I think I saw that Raul Neto had close to 30 points last game, or maybe I'm thinking it was somebody else. But, it was somebody, I can't remember who it was. Yeah, Raul Neto. I think he had 30 points in his last game, which is insane. He is a guy that I guess can come off the bench and score when he's needed, but probably the player that I think could be a really big difference maker is Rui Hachimura. I think that's kind of an obvious choice behind Beal and Westbrook. I honestly want to say Beal. And you know what? I'm going to go with Beal. I'm going to go with Bradley Beal as my difference maker for the Washington Wizards. I think he's been a little shaded by Russell Westbrook's performances as of late. I mean, the guy's averaging 22, 11.5, and 11.7, which is just unreal. He's carried this team to the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, Beal is playing out of his mind. I mean, averaging over 30 points per game is phenomenal. To be getting 4.5 assists and 4.5 rebounds per game is also really nice. But I don't think we've seen Beal put up huge numbers. Now, I don't follow them religiously, so I might be mistaken, but I think Beal is, and I know for a fact, Beal is the type of guy that could put up 50 on any given night, and I think that's why he is the biggest difference maker on this team. Russ is going to get you the triple-double. He's going to find chances for players, but I think if Beal can get his scoring going on his own and take the pressure off of these role players on the team, I think the Wizards could pull off the upset against the Boston Celtics. Now, do I think they could carry that over to a 7-game playoff series against who? I think it would be the one-seeded Nets. I do not think they could. Or is it Sixers? It's one of the two. Eastern Conference this year is just, I haven't been watching because the West is so much more fun to watch. It's so much more competitive. But I do think these play-in games, as well as the 4-5 matchup between the Knicks and Hawks, are going to be the best games that we could see possibly in the playoffs, just because of how close these teams are. Now, the Boston Celtics, they're a team that's really confusing this year. Jason Tatum's been playing really well, but I think Jaylen Brown's now out for the season, which is a huge loss for them. But do they have the players still on the team that could be those bench guys that are maybe getting 10 minutes a night that's going to come out and play really well in this first game? I honestly don't think they do, which is why I think Washington Wizards, I think they're going to pull out with a W in this game. They are 2-point underdogs, but it's so hard to judge what players I think could be a difference maker, an X factor on the Boston Celtics just because of how top heavy they are. They've got a ton of really good rookies on their team or second year players. Aaron Nesmith, I think that's how you say it. He's been playing really well as of late, but I'm going to have to go out. The hard question is, I don't know if he's playing. I'm going to say Evan Fournier. Now, Evan Fournier is, he's a consistent player. I think he is a veteran. I don't know exactly what year he's in, but he's another one of those guys that can go out and he can score 30 points on any given night if his three-point shot is going through the net. If it's falling, he's a guy that's really deadly and hard to guard, and that's why I'm going to pick him as my X factor for this team. I think they should never have traded away Daniel Tice. I think he was a perfect fit on that team. I think he really helped them gel. Now, Jabari Parker's also been playing really well after they got rid of Tice, but I'm going to go with Evan Fournier just because of his scoring ability. If he can get shots to fall, I think that can help clear up space for Jason Tatum or Kemba Walker and help them get their shots going. I think that could help them win this game. I do think the Celtics have the advantage in this game size-wise. Tristan Thompson is playing really well. Robert Williams is a phenomenal defensive player along with Tristan Thompson. And then they've got consistent bench players in Jabari Parker and Grant Williams that are all bigs. They're really guard heavy in the starting lineup, but I think down low, I think once the bench comes into the game, I think that is where we're going to see the Celtics pull away, but I don't know if they can finish the game. I think Russ and Beal are going to be just a little bit too much, and I think the Washington Wizards, as I said, are going to come away with a win in this playoff game for the Eastern Conference. Now we've covered the first two games today, if ESPN will load. The one hard part about filming these videos is how long it takes just to get ESPN to load. You'd think a huge company like this would unfortunately be able to work a little bit better, but they're not. But I'm just going to talk through it while it loads. The Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Lakers. They're two teams that are really on opposite trajectories at this point in the season. Golden State is playing really well behind Steph Curry, and the Lakers have dropped probably, I'd say, at least 10 of their last 20. I know that for sure. But I think they're right around that 500 mark, if not a little bit lower, ever since they lost Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Now, do I think anybody's really expecting them to be better than that? No, I do not, because those are their two main guys. They put so much money into them. They traded away so many assets. They really do not have many players that can be relied on consistently to score the ball other than those two. But one player that I think to watch for the Golden State Warriors is going to be Jordan Poole. Now, once this loads, I'm just going to pull it up right here so we can get the game-by-game statistics of Jordan Poole. But he has actually been getting pretty consistent minutes in the past few games. He had a career high the other night of, I think, 36 points, which is insane for any bench guy. Like, don't get me wrong. That is really good. But Poole was a guy that was really raw coming out of college. And one thing I didn't like about him was that he would shoot the ball and fall down. But he has really changed that to where he's more than just a spot-up shooter. In his past few games, as he's playing more, he's started 7 games now, and it's because of injuries, and it's because they've actually been winning more games where he's been getting more minutes to play. But he's playing way better than he did last year. As you can see, he shot 33% from the field last year, not from 3, from the field. And this year, he's jumped that up 10 points, and he has jumped his three-pointer percentage up, what is that? Math is so hard, 7 points, which is a phenomenal increase from your rookie to sophomore season. He's pretty much increased all of his shooting statistics. As you can see, his free throw percentage went up another 9 points, which is really good improvement to see from a guy who you are going to be relying on to shoot the ball. I think he's going to be playing more as a shooting guard alongside Steph Curry, and I think that's what they're going to be relying on him for. I don't think they need him to do any more than that. I'm trying to pull up his game log here. I might have already passed it, but here we go. His game logs for 2020. He had, like I said, he scored 36 points the other night, which was a career high, but unfortunately we have to go all the way to the bottom. As you can see in his last few games that he has been playing as a starter, 15. It was 38 actually. 22 nights in a row, 16 and 14. As he's playing more, he's scoring more. And that's pretty much, I know it sounds really obvious to say, but for a lot of players that are role players or bench players, they're afraid to shoot the ball. But that is not something you're going to see with Jordan Poole. And as you can see, it's working. Their point differentials, his plus or minus is really good, and their point differentials are phenomenal to go alongside it. They're playing, playoff teams, and they're beating them. As you can see, they have won 6 games in a row, which is incredible to see the team that they have, the injuries that they've dealt with, losing James Wiseman and losing Clay before the season. To see this team back into the playoff hunt is a really awesome thing to see. I do think they have a chance to beat the Lakers. I think it's slim if Anthony Davis and LeBron are both playing, but I do think they have a chance. Steph could go off for 60 any night, and I know Beal, I said 50, and Steph is just that much better. I think Steph deserves MVP this season. I think he's going to score his points. I think Draymond and Jordan Poole are going to have to step up, and I think those are the players that are going to make the biggest difference if they want to beat the Los Angeles Lakers in this playoff game. And for the Los Angeles Lakers, it's really hard for me to judge an X factor. I think a lot of people would say Taylon Horton Tucker because of how well he played, but they've had a really up and down season. I mean, players that have been having their minutes due to injuries, they're still not really putting up the points to go alongside them. One player that I do think is probably a possible difference maker is Ben Mclemore. He's a guy that they signed halfway through the season. They've had him as long as they had Drummond, which was right after the All-Star break, or right after the trade deadline. And Mclemore has put up some big numbers in games where they have had injuries. I think in his first start, he started off like 5 for 6 from 3 in the first half. So he's a player that has been known for his shooting ability. And I think he is a guy that if he gets hot, he can provide that spark off the bench if needed. I don't think, even if he's hot, I don't think he'd play too many minutes. But I think he's the type of guy that could give you a good 2 or 3 minute spurt while their starting guards like Schroeder or even Caldwell Pope are getting some rest. I think Mclemore could be a good spark off the bench and help the Los Angeles Lakers increase a lead. I don't think they're going to be trailing much of this game. I think if the Warriors want to win, they'd have to come back from behind, but I could be totally wrong. But I think that's the only way the Warriors are going to win this game. I mean, obviously the Lakers are the reigning champs. Their team is really deep when healthy, but that's the big question marks. Can they stay healthy? Can they get good minutes, quality minutes out of their bench players? I'm not 100% sure if that's something that could happen. Now, we are going to go to the other game tomorrow, which is between the Spurs and Grizzlies. Now, let's see, I want to make a prediction before. I'm a big Grizzlies fan, but I just like DeMar DeRozan, and I like the Spurs. I would go with them if Derrick Jones was playing, but he came back from an injury this year and got hurt again, which was a really tough loss. As you can see, they've dropped 4 in a row, while the Grizzlies have won 4 of their past 5, with their only loss coming to Golden State, and they blew out Dallas, who was a really good team. Kings were a borderline, play-in game type team, but they have shown that they have the ability to beat those really good teams. I think that I'm going to go with the Grizzlies in this game. But one player that I would 100% have chosen as my difference maker is Grayson Allen. As you can see, he is out for this game. I'm thinking for the Memphis Grizzlies, I don't follow them too much. I like Grayson Allen. I just don't think there's too many players on that team that are like players that will come out on a given night and score 2 and then come out and score 30 the next night. I guess I would have to say the biggest difference maker on that team, or X factor, is Jaron Jackson Jr. And that seems like the obvious choice if it were last year, but he is a totally different player this year. He is not playing as well as he did last year, at least in my opinion. He is playing well, but I think he's the type of guy that could come out and get you that triple-double if he's playing really well. I know it's not something that's super expected, but the reason I say I think he could get a triple-double to help them win is if he can get his scoring going, he becomes such a dominant force that they're going to have to double-team him, and I think kicking it out wide to players like Desmond Bane, DeAnthony Melton, or Dylan Brooks, and I'm not saying Ja because Ja is definitely not a spot-up shooter at this point in his career. I think Jaron could get close to that triple-double mark if he's playing well, and I think he is going to be the reason why the Grizzlies win this game over the Spurs. But I do think it's going to be a pretty close game. I don't think it's going to be a blow-up by any means, and I could see either team pulling out with the win. It's just my gut is telling me to go with Memphis just because of how well they're playing currently and because the Spurs really have dealt with some injuries throughout the season, and for any team, it's hard to stay on track when you have not a consistent rotation. They were playing so well, though, at the beginning of the year, and I think Derek White got hurt, and that's really, been a struggle to deal with because he was playing so well and helping them win games. I think my X factor is going to be Kelden Johnson. He is a player that I really like. I didn't know much about him coming out of college, and I didn't know how much of a taller guard. He's listed as a small forward, and I think he plays like a big guard. He has the ability to knock down a three when needed, but he also has that inside ability where he can get down to the post and bully a smaller defender, and I think that's really crazy to see from a guy who I think plays more of as a guard. I think he's a type of player, though, that can go out and get a double-double if needed. He can help a team win by playing tough defense, scoring when he needs to, and getting those boards to help that team on the small plays. I think DeMar and DeJounte Murray, I think they're going to play really well as they normally do. I think DeMar is probably going to be the best player on that team, and I think he is probably going to score the most points, as we've seen. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kelden gets a double-double somewhere in the range of like 16 and 10. He's done it multiple times throughout the season, and I just don't know, though, if the Spurs have enough to pull out a win over the Memphis Grizzlies. So those are going to be my X factors. Like I said, it's really hard to judge for some teams that I'm not too familiar with, and there's so many players that could help their team win in so many different ways, but I think these are going to be, like I said, the best games in the NBA playoffs are these playoff games. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Do you think that Washington Wizards? Do you think the Memphis Grizzlies? I said the Lakers just because I think they have too much firepower, and I'm going to have to go with the Pacers. Do you think those teams are going to win in these playoff games? Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know if there's any player that you think I missed or didn't cover that you think is going to be a potential X factor. I'll catch you guys in the next one.